BassResinator here. I have a plate full of sunflowers. Now, why didn't I just leave them out on the bush and enjoy? Well, we have Hurricane Beryl coming in. Now, the good thing is for us, it's changed direction to go a little bit more to the north of us, but we're still going to get some high winds and some rain, which will pummel these things, and there probably won't be anything left. So I have my Helianthus annuus. That's the Helianthus is the genus for sunflowers, and this is the annual variety. And I call this one my fuzzy bear. It's a big one, and instead of having a dark center, it has this. It's like a pincushion. And then these are the Mexican sunflowers, and then there's a relative of the sunflower, the Gallarda, but they're all in the same family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preserve these in some silica gel sand. Now, what I really like, and you have to start with some in the wherever you're going to put it first, because you want to have a good coverage. And I've used a couple types, but Wisedry, I always think of Wise Guys, but it's the best kind that's out there. So I'm going to grab this big fuzzy one because he's probably going to take up the majority of this spot. Now I'm trying to move him around to where the silica is underneath him. Oh, it's nice and it's kind of cool feeling. I know I can fit the little Gallarda in there. But some of these Mexican sunflowers I might be able to fit. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to use the Gallarda. Well, just a second. I'm gonna have to trim off. Still gonna put the Gallarda in here. This is a native to this area. I'm going to trim off the back of these so I don't have to have as much sand down in place. And whatever position you... Oh, that petal's bent already. Whatever position you have these in, when you start putting the sand in, that's the way they're going to stay. You cannot rearrange them after they've been dried, because you try and rearrange them and they'll break. So I'm just cutting the stems off of all of these. Now the stems on these are hollow. The other ones are not. There's more solids. It's like a straw. But I had never heard of the Mexican sunflower until I wanted to start my own sunflower garden outside. And then I was oh, there's a little bug right there. If you stay in there, I pity you when you cannot be seen. Now, I have used this before, so you may see some little pieces of color of stems. There's a little stem that came out of previous uses. But all you got to do is just make sure you get it all covered up. And then the silica gel, there's little pellets in here. The silica gel will take it. I'm doing this just to make sure it got under all of the petals, and now I've exposed this Mexican sunflower. Oh. I don't know if you can see them, but there's little, if I zoom in, maybe. Zoom way in. There's little, oh, too far, I won't focus on it. It doesn't know what to focus on when I get that. But there's little orange pieces, and that's they're color-coded silica sand. When they turn from orange to green, you need to take them out and put them in the oven to regenerate them, and they'll go back orange. So if you've got a lot of green ones, then you need to regenerate. Or I just saw that little bug. Okay, so then you put it in an airtight container and set it aside. Now for that gigantic sunflower, for the little Gallarda and the other one, probably wouldn't have to wait a week. But for this big one, since it's got so much, that center is 1.5 inches thick. So for it to completely dry out, it needs to be in here a full week. Some flowers that are not as thick wouldn't need as much time. You know what? I may need to get another container. Isn't that pretty? Oh, look at there. There's a little ant. I think I got him. Ant? I got him? No, I got her. Oh! Yeah, I am going to get another container because that's all that's going to fit here. And there's some stuff that I did from another drying. Okay, I don't have to fill that nearly as much because that one flower is not that thick. Okay, I have another container down here. But I have two molds, two snail molds on top. Which, if you know anything about snails, they're kind of slow, right? Now, I think I have to pour some of this. I have too much in this container. Come on. There's a little bit of sand on the top, and I don't want it to go flipping all over. Come on now. There. There's also a dog hair on the top. Let's get that off. See, now some of this has already started to turn green. I'll just leave that underneath. And get those flowers. You don't want to do overlapping of flowers too much, because then they can possibly, look at that little petal, it flipped up in. Because if you have too much overlapping, they can stick to each other, and then when you go to take them out, you get a broken petal, and that's unfortunate. You don't want that. That one just opened up. That one's been open a day. This one's been open 2 days. Look at the centers. See how these... Let me get them. The centers are all standing up and they're a little curly. This one has some of them standing up and some have curled and some are straight. And look at those. They're just all straight. So you can tell how with these sunflowers how long they've been out. Plus, look at the intensity of color. Super intense. It's a little bit less, and then this is faded even more, but still giving off their glory, man. And then I will be, by preserving them in this sand, I'll be able to put them in resin. I could put them in a flower press, but then you lose the 3D effect of them. put them in a flower press and you just squash them flat, you know, and doesn't. I mean, they'll still be pretty, and they will still retain a lot of their color. But I really like this sand stuff. And once I found out they had this, see, my kids are the ones that got me involved in resin art. They didn't know it, and they don't know it, but they bought me an aero garden, which is a hydroponic garden, and I love growing pansies. I love pansies. I've always loved them. And you've seen videos of me talking about them before. And so I'd get them, and I would want to keep them, and I'd put them in my flower press that I've had since I was in junior high. That thing is 50 years old. So I'd put them in there, and they're wonderful, but I've got a box of a bunch of dried pansies. I've used some in products, but they're not as pretty to me as when the pansies, because some of the pansies have little rufflies on them, and you don't get that when you've put them in the flower press. So once I found out about silica gel sand, I tried some, and it was okay, but once you did it once, you had to throw it out. It was no good anymore. You couldn't redo it. So this Wisedry product, where you can put it back in the oven to get it going back again, really caught my eye, and I have enjoyed it. So yeah, and then I have been putting flowers in some of my resin art. You can look at some of my things online, but anyway, this is well, just a second. Instead of waiting a week, here is a dried Mexican sunflower. So you saw what the original looked like. They shrink a little bit. This is one of those big fuzzy bear ones, and this one, since I have to leave it in longer, look, the petals shrunk up even more. But they shrink in a little bit. Look at that. I dried a bird of paradise flower. It's taking up the whole room in here. Got some zinnias, some sunflowers, another one of those fuzzy bear ones, and then there's one of those Helianthus annuus, the annual one underneath there. So yeah, this is my sunflowers and bird of paradise collection. And then I've got some pansies, and I've got bluebonnets, and I've got bougainvillea, and I've got orchids, all with this Wisedry, and I'm very, very content. Now, if you, with resiners, they sent me some dried flowers. They're pretty, but they're completely flat. So by having the, and I will definitely use these, that's for sure. That's not a cut on anybody, because there are some types of molds that will not accommodate that giganto thick flower. So I use the pressed ones as well. But if I've got a thick enough mold, just a second. Here is a sunflower in 3D. You can see this was an about 3/4 of an inch thick mold, but you can't get that with a pressed flower. So I have, this is why I do this with Wisedry. That was done with Wisedry. The blue bonnets were done with Wisedry. The red bonnets that were given to me by Sonia by Wisedry. The Mexican flame bush, I don't know why all of just because I guess proximity to Mexico. I've got 3 flowers around here that are called Mexican, and they're all orange, which is kind of crazy. And then the primrose that just grew wild in my yard, which I take and use. And then plumbago. My sister has a plumbago bush, and I just ask her if I can borrow some. But yeah. Anyway, Wisedry, good stuff. And if you are interested in doing your own flowers, they're not very difficult. You just have to take care when you're taking them out of the sand. You don't get in too much of a rush, because if you yank it out, you're going to lose a petal or two. If that doesn't bother you, you know, a little bit of UV resin on there could put that petal right back. But still, if you can prevent it, do so. Just take your time getting them out, and you too can create wonderful pieces of art. Okay, thank you, subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, think about it. And hopefully this hurricane is not too difficult on us or people up the coast a little ways, because it's heading up towards Corpus, which is about 150 miles northeast of us. So, yep. See you soon.